I've kept saying it every single turn. This will be the turn that changes the whole campaign. This will be the turn that changes the whole campaign. This time, I think I was actually right. So, just wait and see what happened. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe. Also, go and check us out on Facebook so you can always be kept updated on when new videos are coming out, and you can also share what you're working on. So for the campaign, we're using my own rule set. It's called Beggars and Scoundrels. You can go and purchase it on my Ko-fi channel. The link is in the description. So, for those of you that aren't aware where the 1814 campaign is set, it's set in France itself. So, what did we get up to this turn? It was a bit of an interesting turn. A few setbacks for the coalition. In the east, Marshal Ney was given his orders to march towards the centre to link up with Napoleon, whilst Blucher and his Russian corps next door to him were ordered equally to move into the centre. However, due to heavy rain and just organisational issues, they were delayed, so hardly made much progress at all this turn. In the south, the French were ordered to march north, to unite their forces, march north, and so that way they can join up with the central forces in the central theatre. The coalition went with splitting their forces, one group to go north and one group to go west, and in the centre, all coalition forces again were ordered to march into a central position, and Napoleon saw his opportunity and struck. So that sets us up with one big battle this game, which is two corps under Napoleon. On the left we've got sort of the young guard, and on the right we've just got a regular corps. Yeah, not huge numbers of troops, but pretty reasonable. Against him we have the Prussians, one corps of Prussians, one corps of Russians, and then we've also got the Austrians under Schwarzenberg himself. So quite a force coming against them. Unfortunately for the Allies, whilst the Prussians and the Russians will start together on the table, the Austrians will be arriving as reinforcements sometime in the game, to be confirmed. Then as for the forces, we've got the French with their two corps with 2 divisions each, a few cavalry, they've got light cavalry brigade and heavy. First up, they will be falling upon the Prussians with their 2 divisions and the Russians with 3. So initially it's going to be quite an even battle between the two forces, and then at some point after turn 3 the Austrians will turn up. So our battle will start with the Allies on the road, and they've just realised that the French are falling upon them, and so they will be quickly falling out into battle positions. So at the start of the game, turn 1, the French advanced across the wet, boggy field. A few of their troops were able to get slightly ahead, the others were delayed. The Russians have pulled back into a defensive position on the southern side of the road, whilst the Prussians have moved up somewhat. Shooting phase, it was just a bit of artillery fire onto the infantry, a few casualties. However, the important part of the turn was the Russian hussars charged the French chasseurs. However, in the combat, although they inflicted more casualties, they were eradicated themselves, unfortunately for the Russians and Allies. At the end of turn 2, the coalition forces only moved the Prussians up slightly, just into an extended line. Everyone else stayed put. The French forces continued their march forwards, apart from the chasseurs in the centre who withdrew slightly. During the shooting, the French gun attempted to fire, but due to the campaign random event was unable to this turn. The Russians fired at the chasseurs as they withdrew, inflicting damage on them, but more importantly inflicting a wound on Napoleon himself. So in turn 3 we saw the French advancing into small arms range all along the line. We had the Prussians, both regiments
putting their volleys into the French, inflicting some casualties, but not quite enough. And they received a few casualties in return. Coalition artillery pummeled the French infantry as they advanced. French artillery again was unable to fire. And then on this flank, the Russians advanced into range, and the three regiments poured fire into the approaching French. Turn 4 shooting. In the exchange, the Russian Guard unit were finally brought down and removed from the field. So turn 4 was not a good turn for the coalition. Although we had inflicted very heavy casualties on the Young Guard as they came forwards, they were able to force their way into the road, and the Russians were forced back, who then broke, having been depleted right down, and they just dissolved. The Guard units, again, although they wouldn't have broken, they were killed to a man. So, luckily, this one regiment left. They passed their morale check on a double 1, so very unlikely, but they made it. Elsewhere along the field, the French infantry, who are lagging, did have to take a morale check, but they just passed it. So it's going well for the French, not so well for the coalition. So at the end of turn 5, it was quite catastrophic for the Russians. That last regiment broke, the artillery piece broke, so the French are now in a very good position to swing round onto the Prussians. They're kind of holding strong, but they can hear the Austrians in the distance, but the Austrians haven't arrived yet. Can they hold on? Turn 6 has been a hard-fought thing. A bit of cohesion was reinstated in the Russians as they were running, but then they got volleyed by the 2 French regiments, and that was enough to make them run for it again. The chasseurs charged the Prussians, who managed to form square just in time, but in the ensuing melee, the square was broken and ridden down. The cavalry were then able to charge on to the routed artillery piece and destroyed that. Seeing their neighbouring square break, we had to test for the final Prussian regiment, but they passed. So not good for the Allies at all. However, we have just rolled 4 reinforcements, and the Austrians will be arriving the next turn, turn 7.
Okay.
So turn 7 saw the Austrians arrive. The French started to form up ready to receive them. The Prussian infantry, after taking a few shots, just broke and disintegrated. However, our Russian infantry regiment was able to rally. I think they saw that the Prussians had shot down the chasseurs, so the immediate threat was gone, and so they were able to rally. So, moving into turn 8, interesting to see what happens. So, at the end of turn 8, the French decided they would withdraw from the field, heading in the direction of being able to link up with Ney. This sets the situation that the Austrians are now cut off from supply, so they did try to pursue, but by the end of the game they weren't close. The French, we've rolled to see whether the Russian regiment and the Prussian regiment are caught, destroyed or escape. The Prussians were caught, whilst the Russians have managed to outmarch the French, and they will be crossing the river slightly further down.
So ultimately it was a French victory, although heavy casualties for both sides. It's going to make the next turn, I would say, the decider. If the coalition can sort of regain their composure, they've got more reinforcements set to come on over pretty well every turn going forwards now, so they do still have the ability to outmarch and outman the French, but at this stage it's very precarious with the French in a strong central position. So next up we have orders for turn 6. Should be noted at this stage, the weather forecast is clear for the week ahead, so bear that in mind when you're giving your orders this turn. Starting in the southwest, option 1 is for all Allied forces to move due west. Option 2 is to split, half go north, half go west. Option 3, all forces north. And option 4, again a split, but half go back to counter against Napoleon. Central options, number 1 are for the Austrians to attack the French. Option 2 is for the Austrians to move in a westerly direction. Option 3 is for the Austrians to march north into that central spot to interrupt those reinforcements. And option 4 is again to move sort of northeast to try and link up with Blucher. Eastern option 1 is for Blucher's forces to move into a central position to link up with the Austrians. Option 2 is to keep pursuing Ney. And option 3 is to move south towards our supply lines to pick up reinforcements to start rebuilding a core of an army to then have a second go. Next up, we've got our French options. So starting in the west, option 1 is for all forces to go on the attack again. Option 2, all forces keep moving north. Option 3, all forces move west to try and protect Paris. Central option 1, all forces after the Austrians. Option 2, half against the Austrians and half to finish off the Russians. Option 3 is all forces go against Blucher. And option 4 is all forces move south against the Russians. So let me know down below what you thought about the events of the last turn and also these options. Let me know what you think is the best strategy for both sides going forwards. It's definitely an interesting and difficult stage for both sides really. Whilst the coalition have more troops, it's kind of hard for them to get them united at the moment. But as I said last time, if you're enjoying the campaign, if you want to get your hands on it, head over to the coffee channel where you can pick up the rules which come with the campaign itself. Then you can fight it out either as we play along or just on yourself to see how you do separately. But anyway, till next time guys, I hope you take care.